going to talk about how engaging with evil forces curses you. Nowadays, the term evil is generally hyperbolic, although not always. When we think of evil, we don't necessarily think of witches or Satanism. We think of things like corrupt governments or serial killers or something like that. Although I believe that the former are still pertinent realities that we can relatively call evil and be safe in those definitions. But for a totality of perspective here, what I'm basically calling evil are those sort of relative to us uncanny subterranean forces that appear at first glance to do harm to our conception of our identity. So let's say that you're in school and there's like a school shooter, right? That's going to leave some sort of mark if you're not prepared for it, if you haven't been in the military or a police officer who's engaged with those sort of things. That situation is going to leave a mark on your understanding of what you are. For instance, now every time you walk into a crowded place, what you used to feel was that it's basically safe and I basically just need to do what I need to do. But now you don't know exactly where it is that you are anymore. You don't know the people around you anymore. Until you've engaged with that evil, you can no longer bring out your fullest sense of yourself. There's always going to be a part of you that's hidden in the background, a part of you that needs a certain amount of operating power to keep this level of awareness up. Now, that's just one example, and you can probably think of a huge amount of examples of when that sort of thing would come into play. But the point is, the point is that there are forces in this world that, when you engage with them, you don't leave in the same way, and that's not really any different than what a curse does. A curse, historically, culturally, as we imagine it, is a bit more precise in how it's affecting you. It's a bit more in link with the evil that you've apprehended. Like if you were cursed by a witch and you got turned into a frog, the mechanisms that you would need in order to deal with that situation in your frog life are going to be different than if you were a witness to some horrific event. But, in some sense, these situations do turn us into something like frogs or something like an alternative version of ourselves that is difficult to grapple with. And the worst thing, well, maybe not worst, but the most impactful thing about engaging with evil forces is that they're sort of, I don't want to be too pessimistic about it, but in some sense there's no going back. Now, the silver lining of that is that going back where you were in the first place was an illusion. It was like the Garden of Eden, right? That state of reality didn't comprehend the totality of facts of existence to begin with. So going back, it doesn't make sense, and staying there never really made sense to begin with. So as far as there is a silver lining to encounters with evil, It's that you get to broaden your perspective. And to take it one step further, and to butt heads with the old "how could God create evil" sort of thing, um, there's not really, or I mean to aspire to this fundamental good that just always exists is not really a place where an existing consciousness uh, can aspire to dwell in. It's just not a sensible location for any sort of thinking being, for any sort of thing that desires continually to exist. Because if you want to exist, then there has to be some part of you that's going to want to experience things that you don't know about. And evil is always going to be the thing that you don't know the most about. And in some sense, your conception of it being evil is like a qualitative nature of the quantity of amount that you don't know.